What's up, guys? Welcome to a new day. I'm Stephanie Ryder, and this is the 365 Shares podcast. It's February 7th, 2024, and today's topic is letting go. I'm watching a movie on Hulu called Self-Reliance with Jake Johnson, who you may know as Nick Miller from New Girl. He's amazing in that show. I'm a huge Nick Miller fan, although when I watch it back, he's such an alcoholic, and I have a little bit of mixed feelings about how much they glorify his alcoholism, but it's a show. It's funny. I stand by it. I think the first season of New Girl as a whole is just like the most complete season of any show, really. So love New Girl. Love Jake Johnson. He's done a bunch of indie movies also, and they've all been really good. They're all kind of like funny, but also dark. And he's in a movie called Ride the Eagle with Susan Sarandon that's so good. If you want an emotional connection, if you want to like go on this journey with him. Long story short, he gets like a VHS from his mom who is sick, and she has him go on all these adventures, and like she uses this video she made and the scavenger hunt that she sends him on to help them like repair their relationship and just give him closure to his childhood. And he made sort of a joke about it and called it a feelings movie, but I know he really liked it and I really liked it. It's a great movie for anyone who has unfinished business with someone or doesn't have closure, because it's about finding that closure, getting to a place where you can move on and just make peace with what happened. But this movie that I'm watching now, Self-Reliance, it's really interesting. I'm 30 minutes in. You find out in the very beginning that he has been selected to play this reality type game on the dark web where he's like signing up to be hunted, basically. And he's trying to tell everyone about it in his life. And obviously no one believes him because it sounds really insane and that he's just had like a psychotic break. And it's so funny because it's so similar to how I sort of think about the universe and like how everything is the Hunger Games, and we have these game makers who have ascended to the next level, and they're like watching us and rooting for us, but also giving us challenges because they're not going to make it easy for us. And it's just so funny because I'm like, this could so easily be me, and I could be telling everyone in my life that I'm playing this crazy game with people that nobody else can see, and you know, like the stakes are so high and I have to do all this stuff. And that is how I feel sometimes. I feel like, for sure, I feel like a lunatic. But at the same time, when I live my life by these sort of like movie rules, where if you think about a rom-com, you know what people are supposed to do in the rom-com. And when you see a movie where people do like something totally different and a bad character wins, even when they're not supposed to, that just doesn't really sit well with people. And my example in rom-coms is people in relationships. So Wedding Crashers is, I think, a great example, where Claire is in a relationship with Zach and they've been together for a long time, and on paper it's a really good relationship and it's getting more serious. But Owen Wilson's character falls for her and she sort of starts liking him and having feelings for him, but she's already in this relationship, so she can't really do anything about it. So then in the movie, we slowly find out the worse and worse and worse things that Zach, her boyfriend, is doing, so that we realize he's not a good person. And like, it's okay for her to be falling in love with somebody totally different who she just met, because it turns out her boyfriend is secretly like a huge creep and a jerk. So certain things have to happen. Karma is another way to think about it. Like, we can only do this thing if someone else did this thing to us first. Otherwise, we're the bad guy. And movie morality always changes. A few years ago during COVID, my partner and I watched this old Clint Eastwood and Jeff Bridges movie, Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. And it's about an army veteran who is a bank robber, and that's Clint Eastwood. And then Jeff Bridges' character is just sort of like a hippie grifter who steals cars. And they get together and they work this job. Spoiler, fast forward 30 seconds if you don't want to hear the end of this movie. It's a really weird movie, but in the end, Jeff Bridges' character dies. It was so weird, and I couldn't really get my head around it because it wasn't the way that the movie would play out and end if it was made today. So I thought back about when it was made, and it was made in like the Nixon time frame, and hippies were bad and they were dangerous, and they were kind of associated with like the Manson family and murders and mayhem and all this stuff. And like, just imagined like all these kind of like men in their 30s and 40s and 50s going to see this movie when it came out and being like, yeah, Clint got what he wanted, and like this hippie got what was coming to him. So pay attention to the times and movies. If you don't think about movies in terms of like the formulaic approach that they take, just start thinking about it. I think it's really interesting. And I was trying to tell my partner that I live my life kind of by movie rules, and that always tends to work out really well for me. And he was like, okay, but that's just my tangent for today. But yeah, check out Self-Reliance. I haven't finished it yet, but it's really cool. And if you've ever felt totally crazy, like you're just trying to tell everyone something and nobody believes you and everyone's laughing at you and thinks you're totally nuts, but you are seeing it with your own eyes and you believe it to your core, then, you'll identify with this movie and I think you'll enjoy it. But we're really here to talk about letting go. And the Big Red Book says, in ACA, we learn to let go of control in stages. Our parachute is the 12 steps and a higher power of our understanding. So the topic is letting go, and what we're letting go of is control. So the topic is also control. And it talks about how we grew up being controlled by our parents or our caregivers and feeling really out of control. So going into adulthood, we really try to grasp any form of control that we can. And we probably don't even know that we're trying to be controlling. We probably consciously know that being controlling is a bad trait. And so we don't like to identify ourselves as people who are controlling, but it goes along with manipulation. It goes along with minding every little detail of something because you're sure that if you don't do it, then something horrible will happen. It says trying to control people in situations is exhausting, which it really is. And it takes time away from all the other things that we could be doing in our lives, like taking care of ourselves and optimizing and starting a new hobby or a project, doing well at work, meeting new friends, working on our romantic relationship, working on ourselves. And it says it's really hard to let go of control. And if you have PTSD, this is a common trait. It says you have to let go of control in stages because we can't just wake up one day and say, I'm not going to worry about anything. I'm just going to let the chips completely fall as they may. The funny example I'm thinking of, if you were to just completely let go of control, would be the movie Office Space, where Peter gets hypnotized and before that, he's like this neurotic guy who hates his job and he's unhappy in his relationship. And his fiance, I think, drags him into this hypnotherapist and he gets hypnotized. And he's supposed to just get hypnotized temporarily and then come back out of it. But once he gets put under, gives 0 Fs. And suddenly everything in his life starts to go really well. He's happier. He keeps getting promoted at work. He meets a new girl. But so many people that are used to him being the other way are like really upset with him. His boss is upset. His fiance is upset because they just don't understand how he could just give up all of his control. So if you want a comical example of what it would be like to just wake up one day and completely surrender control and see what happens, watch Office Space. It's a great movie anyway. But for most of us, we're not just going to do that. We're not going to just have this complete transformation. It would take something silly like hypnosis or brain damage or some kind of a near-death experience to completely change everything about the way you approach life. So ACA says we're going to have to do it in stages. And one example I gave a few episodes ago was when I spilled salsa all over the carpet and I didn't do anything about it because normally I would have cleaned it up, but I would have gotten mad at my partner for not helping more, but I still would have done it and I would have resented him. And I just decided a day or two earlier that I was going to do less and I was just going to see what happened. And it all worked itself out in the end. And I was like, oh, okay, well, clearly I was supposed to let go of some control there and I was rewarded for that. But just take little steps, pick something small. If you usually call and check up on someone to make sure they're going to be somewhere on time, just don't. See what happens. And maybe they'll be late, but that's on them. And maybe there's someone who's chronically late and you're preventing them from experiencing the consequences of their lateness. And you need to just let them have a little mini rock bottom. And in the meantime, you can listen to music, you can play a game on your phone, you can start whatever you were going to do when you got there on time. Like if you're at a movie, just go in, sit in your seat, eat your popcorn, watch the previews. If you're going to the gym, start your workout. If you're 45 minutes in and ready to leave by the time they get there, that's fine. Then you gained 45 minutes of your day to then go do something else that you want. I'm Steph, and this is my share. The affirmation for today is, on this day, I will practice letting go of the control I have worked so hard to have over the people and events in my life. I will forgive myself if I slip. I liked the format of yesterday where I talk about something I do related to this share, and I also liked sharing something that other people have done to me related to this share. So I for sure have been a very controlling person when I was with my ex-husband, who I talk about a lot, but he was really, in a lot of ways, my most toxic relationship and my most transformative and my most healing. But he had a drinking problem and probably still has a drinking problem. And it started out where we both were just partying. We were sort of just in that drinking scene where we went out on the weekends with our friends. But then slowly there were more and more instances where he would be really checked out or black out. He would be embarrassing when we were with my friends or in public. There was an instance where I was at home with my family for Thanksgiving and he went out with his friends and lost his phone in the street. And I called him to say goodnight and a stranger answered and said he just found the phone in the street. And then I had to call a bunch of his friends and find someone who was willing to go meet this guy in the middle of the night and like give him $20 and get the phone. And then I didn't hear from my ex-husband until the next day, until the afternoon of the next day when he woke up, I guess got an email from his friend, went to his friend's house and picked up his phone. And then only when he got the phone did he call me. He didn't think, oh, I have my email. I can just send her an email saying like, sorry about that. I'll talk to you in a few hours. So I was really livid. I made him stop drinking for a month, which is what codependent spouses do. And I thought that would fix it, like teach him a lesson. But that's not really how alcoholism works. And the more little events like that we had, the more controlling I got, the more I paid attention to where he was, when he was going to be home, who he was with, even little things like the type of wine that he was drinking. And we had this wine holder that sat on our little bar that a friend had given me. It's just a little wrought iron thing that holds your wine bottle that you're in the middle of drinking. And that's the way that my brain was working. And it kind of helped me when we were getting divorced because I was so hyper vigilant and I caught him trying to do a lot of things that were shady. But that's no way to live. And it took me a long time to slowly dial back that behavior, unravel it, let people do what they need to do, not freak out if I don't hear from someone. And even now, if my partner's at work and I don't hear from him for a while, I'll wonder, is he having a bad day? Did he have a blow up at work? Did someone do something to him? Is there some crisis? And it does take effort on my part, even now, to say, don't text him, don't ask him if anything's wrong, don't borrow trouble, and also don't put thoughts out into the universe that are negative. Don't imagine him having a bad day at work because that makes it possible for him to have a bad day at work. Try to just think about, he's an adult, he's got it handled, he's great at what he does, there's no problem, he's just busy. And 99% of the time, he's just busy and there's nothing for me to worry about. But it takes time to dial back that hypervigilance, that manipulation, that control, that illusion that if we're not micromanaging and actively participating in every detail of someone else's life, then things are going to go wrong for them and for us. That's not how we should live our lives. Unfortunately for me, certain people in my family, especially my siblings, haven't really addressed what I think are their controlling tendencies. And a great example was I was with my brother a few years ago and we were doing something that was supposed to be fun. And like I wanted to make an extra stop. And he said, I'm sorry, we just don't have time to do that. And it was this really patronizing tone that he uses with his kids where he says, I'm sorry, but he's not really sorry. He's not actually apologizing. He's just telling them no. I'm sorry, you don't get what you want. But again, not sorry. And I got really mad. And I was like, do not talk to me like I'm one of your kids. We are out together. We're traveling. We are both people who are used to being in the world, doing their own thing. And I gave him the benefit of the doubt. And I was like, listen, I get it. You're controlling. I'm controlling. We both are used to getting our own way, but we're together on an adventure and we have to co-create. And he was so mad. And the thing that he responded with of everything that I said, he was like, I do not consent for you to call me controlling. If you want to identify yourself as controlling, that's fine, but I do not consent for you to label me as controlling. And I told my sister about it afterwards. And her response was, oh, how controlling of him, which is so funny. And she has her own issues with control as well, as do I. It's part of the family. But not everyone's aware of it. And it's really frustrating to deal with people who don't treat you like an adult. It's frustrating to deal with people who are constantly imagining that you're going to screw everything up. They're going to the worst case scenario. They're putting those bad vibes out into the universe. They're treating you like you're some kind of degenerate piece of garbage that hasn't managed to survive your entire life, doing pretty much just fine. And control has the opposite effect of what most adult children want. Adult children want things to go well. They want to be recognized for their helpfulness. But really, most people just resent this kind of treatment. Why are you telling me to do that? I already know how to do that. Why are you telling me how to load the dishwasher? I know how to put everything in the dishwasher. Why are you telling me that there's a shorter way to drive, that we could have just taken another street? I drive all the time. Let me just drive us there. If you wanted to drive, I would have let you drive, but I'm driving. And driving is actually a big one because there are a lot of people, even people in my family, people I've been friends with, who are so unable to let go of control that they aren't even able to be passengers in a car. They always have to drive. So there are so many examples, little and big, of control. The affirmation says we have to practice letting go of control. We have to slowly take one rubber band at a time off of the huge rubber band ball that we have made, and we have to put it in the drawer. So practice letting go, let go of something little, let go of something big, get hypnotized and change your whole life. Do whatever you need to do. Just open your mind to the possibility that if you let go, good things will happen to you. And forgive yourself if you slip up.